It's his ship now, his command. He's in charge. He's a boss, head man, top dog, big cheese, a head honcho.
Captain, look at this.
Greetings to you, music lovers, thrill seekers, and conversationalists all across the fruited plain. Sadly, Rush Limbaugh has passed away finally with a battle of cancer. Some people want to take this opportunity to whoop it up and celebrate like they've earned something. Well, okay. This happened with Margaret Thatcher and her death, and Ronald Reagan and his death, and not surprised. If that's how you need to celebrate, well, okay. Then let's not pretend anybody wants unity, okay? There's an interesting call for unity, yet we get this from some of the same people. No, we don't want unity, do we? That's and when I say we, I mean you, those people. Look, they love him or hate him. The man was an incomparable benefit and force for radio broadcasting. He turned around AM radio. He made conservative talk radio a thing. It wasn't a thing before him. It was entertaining. It was interesting. It was engaging. It's the reason why he said, greetings to you, music lovers, because he came from music radio, thrill seekers, and conversationalists all across the fruited plain. It's that part of the country, that left coast and the right coast, which is also the left coast, disregards and denigrates that part of the country. It's flyover land. It's flyover country. The Rubes and the Hicks. Well, Rush talked to them. Not like they were Rubes and Hicks. He was from Missouri. He was talking about himself. That part of the country is not a bunch of dumb assholes. In fact, a lot of the people say that part of the country is a bunch of dumb assholes, is a bunch of dumb assholes from L.A. or New York or wherever. They're dumb assholes. Okay, so's your father. But Rush would talk. He connected to his audience. See, some people are mourning the passing of Rush. In this case, it's one of those celebrities for me that I feel bad for the family and the people that worked with them directly and have a loss. I got a real mourning for the passing of a colleague and a friend and a family member. I didn't know him. I felt connected to him in a certain way. It's one of those things where somebody you can have a personal connection to. You can have almost a relationship with somebody, but they don't know who the hell you are. Speaking of Rush Limbaugh, Rush the band, had a great song. Well, still do. Neil Peart died a year ago. Also cancer, brain cancer. He wrote almost all the lyrics to every song of Rush. For Limelight, I can't pretend a stranger is a long-awaited friend. Because he had a hard time with fans just coming up to him like they knew him. Well, his drumming, his bandmates, his band, his music made a mark, left an impression at important times in the fans' lives. Growing up, me too, absolutely. It was very important. That music was very important to me. Some songs very important, and helped in any number of ways that is important to somebody in strife, or disappointed, or frustrated, or sad, or growing up and confused. That's happened with any number of celebrities. We had Christopher Plummer die. I'm sure any number of fans remember him as Captain Von Trapp from The Sound of Music. Oh, heartbreaking. Somebody that you feel you knew, you had a connection to. It's the same with anybody else in a high-profile thing. They don't know who the hell you are. And Rush didn't talk down to his audience. He appreciated his audience. He knew they loved him and relied on him to do his go do that voodoo that he do so well. He's a guy who connected to his audience. He would get the caller, something about radio that some people don't realize. It's something that Rush said that you could just set aside as arrogance and obnoxious bluster. He would say such things as, the purpose of the caller is to make the host look good. Well, what else is the purpose of the caller? He was absolutely right. You don't just put anybody on the radio just because they called. Well, don't they deserve to? No. You got to get the person with the idea that works the best with what's being talked about at the time. That sounds reasonable. The voice maybe sounds good and not, difficult to hear or is distracting. And somebody who can talk well word to word. Get your phone. Get your phone and videotape or audio tape yourself. Better yet, go in front of a room full of people. Give an extemporaneous speech. We'll see how many ums and ahs and hesitations and repeats you make. It's common. Rush didn't do a script. He prepared before every show. And then when his show was done, he'd prepare for the next show tomorrow or next week, Monday. He was always reading and watching. Reading, had his staff look up stuff, get the right audio and video that he could use based on what stories he was looking into. And he'd be prepared. And he'd turn on the mic, he'd start talking. If there was a caller that could work with what he was doing, they got on the air. Sometimes they stayed longer than others. Sometimes they were in and out. Their mic would go off or the call would be turned off, and Rush would be talking as if he was still talking to that person right there. But there was no response coming from that other person, and there wasn't going to be another response coming from that person. He would talk and say, appreciate your call, got to go, up against the clock. And you'd have that sound that would mean, affiliates, roll in your commercials. Dittos was another thing people didn't understand. Dittos, Rush. Well, that must mean it's a bunch of people who just wait to be told what to think by Rush Limbaugh. No, not really. It was good to hear somebody that we agreed with, whose reasoning we could listen to and go, oh, he's got a point. Jesus, I didn't think of it that way before. It wasn't condescending. He wasn't condescending. It wasn't somebody who took his audience for granted. But when somebody would call up, what do people say when they call up? Hey, thanks. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Rush maybe cares, maybe, but a first-time caller, almost everybody's a first-time caller. How many repeat callers do you have? Not a lot. Is it important if it's the first time? Maybe if you're nervous, hey, Rush, first-time caller, bear with me here. So, I've been listening to you however long, all that stuff, you don't need to say it. Dittos, Rush, the abbreviation. Let's formalities aside. Dittos. Now here's my question. There was something really fun about his show. Fun about a show about current events and politics? How the hell is that possible? You could laugh listening to him, with him. You could laugh at some of the things that he would point out that were utterly ridiculous, that you would never hear from anybody on the television networks. Never would say. No. It was a time when, conservatives and people would more than poo-poo it. You were looked at it like an idiot. Some people, they look at us like, we're some kind of idiot. No, they don't say that as far as we know. Yeah, they do all the time. And not everybody. There's any number of people who just disagree, and that's not a big deal. And that's what we want. Loyal opposition. Everybody needs that. That's good. But it's to the elites and the elite of the elites. You just can't stand being treated that way. And to hear that, you're not crazy, and you're not evil, and you're not dumb, and you're not wrong. That was very reassuring to someone who was younger, wondering, well, a lot of my other friends think a completely different way. Is something wrong with me? No. Hold your head up high. Do your thing. You think differently than they do, and that's not bad. That was the Rush Limbaugh show. Oh, and he would joke around, and he would have, gag songs from Shanklin, and some of them were good, and some of them were all right, and some of them weren't. Not everyone's a winner. And sometimes you get called, hey, my God, that's the other thing about talk radio. Almost always, you would have guests, experts. Because then the host doesn't need to talk as much. Here, get as many people as we can to come on the show so that we can, and it doesn't matter if they're an expert really or not, or they're an expert in one thing, but let them talk about something else that they have no expertise whatsoever. So you have an artificial sense that they know what they're talking about. They're expert in what? That's one of the things Rush was fond of talking about. He talked on his own. I mean, he sometimes had guests. It's generally was just the callers and him. And audio from, newscasters and that sort of thing, people that are being interviewed elsewhere. Talk about it. And you could always, it was the one thing that people hate Rush for. Go ahead, fine. But the twisting of what's been said and what he really said and what the context is. I remember the thing about Michael J. Fox. I was sitting in my car eating lunch. The sun was gorgeous that day. And I remember thinking the same thing. And I like Michael J. Fox. And I didn't think anything too much about it. But the general point was somebody can lean into the circumstances so that you have more agreement with them. He didn't want Michael J. Fox to have difficulty and with all Parkinson's. He didn't want that. That's not the. And to hear what some people would say was, well, you knew they weren't listening. You knew, and I mean, you could tell it was going to happen when you heard it. They're going to creatively stop listening at this point, and they're not going to start listening until this part here. It happens all the time today. It happens all the time today in the Twitter-style social media, Facebook media, social media, YouTube and videos and what have you. People are selectively edited all the time, either out of maliciousness and nefarious reasons or out of simple, they're just not looking for anything else. And it seems to fit. Well, what else could they possibly mean? Yeah, well, what else could they possibly mean? That's a great question to ask. Let's ask it more often. It's one thing when you get somebody wrong, but when you're getting them wrong and painting them in a particular, unfavorable light. He had been getting it for years. He'd been getting it for years. In fact, a lot of his callers, a lot of his listeners, a lot of his followers, if that's a word that was used a lot talking about Rush's fan base. They're not fans, they're followers. Where are we going? Where do you think we're going? He gave people the idea that there's nothing wrong with conservatism. It's decent. It's good. We don't want people to die. Contrary to the alternate opinion that we do. No, we don't. We don't. That's simple. The whole thing about, look, he's a human being. Contrary to what some people think, he is. How do you know? Well, that song that he always used, it was the theme song. It was the theme song. The Pretenders no longer have My City Was Gone. Well, they do. But it will forever have the context of Rush Limbaugh. The Rush Limbaugh program on the EIB network. There was communication between Chrissie Hynde of the Pretenders and Rush Limbaugh's side. Chrissie Hynde didn't want, or at least lawyers didn't want that song being used without permission or what have you. And it had been, I don't remember when it occurred, but as I understand, Rush had been using the song for years, and it was really well established that that's the sound. That's the sound of the Rush Limbaugh show. Wonderful sound, wonderful. I'm not even a Pretenders fan. I don't generally like many of their songs. Don't think about any of them, I guess, until, one comes on the air, and I suppose it's okay. Nothing against Chrissie Hynde of the Pretenders, just really not my bag. But that thing was Rush. That was the intro. And he wanted it. She certainly didn't agree with somebody like Rush Limbaugh. So how the hell did it happen? Easy. Two reasonable people who might not agree on much. They agreed on animal cruelty. They were both against it. Well, now, it is one of those issues where, generally, the general topic, I think we're all, but in specifics, they were in common ground. Chrissie Hynde wanted an annual donation to, I guess, a specific animal cruelty prevention organization, and Rush Limbaugh was only too willing to follow through with that. And now forever, the intro of My City Was Gone it means you're going to hear Ooba Dooba, or hear the voice of the Maharishi, America's anchorman. Greetings to you, music lovers, thrill seekers, and conversationalists all across the fruited plain. I'll make it easier by having whatever my brain time behind my back. All the stuff that he would say. That's what that music means. That bass line, but it boom, boom. And it's for a good cause, right? So two people on opposite ends were willing to come together on a good idea. That's unity, right? That's unity. We're going to see that today? These days? Is that what they're talking about? The people in public. I know there's people, anybody who's watching YouTube or Bit Chute or wherever this might be, people that talk to you, your friends and family, regardless of what side of the political spectrum they're on. Do they want unity? Yeah, they probably do. Yeah. Do they want compliance? They probably don't. But what are the people talking about it in public? What about them? What do you think they want? Do you think they want you? They're using the word unity. Do you think they want unity? Go take a look at Twitter. Anybody who's dancing on Rush Limbaugh's grave, I'm going to go out on a limb here, Sequoia-like. No, they don't want unity. They want compliance and silence. And they want to be able to engage in their 2 minutes hate. Yeah, I read the book. How do you like that? It's been a while, though. Unity. He hung around long enough for us to remember, what he would think and say, what he would want people to remember, what he would want people to do to defend themselves verbally. Unity? Is that what you're asking for? Is that what you want?
I kind of think you mean the other thing.
I remember saying that myself 4 years ago. There was a call for unity or something like that with Madame Mao. I kind of think you want that other thing. So that's what I'm going to remember. I'm going to think fondly of Rush Limbaugh, like my cousin and my grandmother when sadly they passed away years ago. And of course I mourned. I mean, those people I knew. But I always smile when I think of my grandmother, even now. I always smile when I think of my cousin, taken too soon. My God, she was a remarkable smartass. I loved my cousin. I still smile. I still laugh thinking about her. She was phenomenal. And Rush. I'll think of Rush. Yeah, I'm a fan of Rush, and I'm a fan of Rush. So when I think of Neil Peart, I smile. And I love that music. And when I think of Rush, I smile. And I laugh. And I think, I ain't so bad. How many fans of Rush are also fans of Rush? And how many fans of Rush are also fans of Rush? I don't know. I suspect we're a small group. But maybe not that small. Maybe that's where we can have unity. Maybe the Rush fans can have, the Rush band fans can have some kind of unity with the Rush fans who are Limbaugh fans. Hey, we like Passage to Bangkok as well. We like we like all the same songs everybody else does and some more. So how about that for unity? Okay, music lovers, thrill seekers, and conversationalists, I appreciate your time and attention, especially if you're not a fan of Rush Limbaugh. I do appreciate that greatly. You folks do take care.